So I just tried to record this video and I realized that my microphone was switched off in terms of on the OBS. So if my voice is a little bit worn out, it's because I've been ranting for the last 20 minutes because I usually don't talk about my neurodivergency that much, my neurodivergent conditions that much, and I don't usually talk about politics that much. But when you hear two absolute buffoons on the other side of the pond talking a load of nonsense and saying that Tylenol is the reason why autism exists, is quite frankly ridiculous. So I'm going to go through this today, and I just wanted to start off by saying that I am happy if anybody is, neurodivergent and is struggling with this, to message me or to email me. My email is liamsp2007@gmail.com, and I will happily answer, Instagram messages. At Liam Plutner is my Instagram. That's Ploetner. But now that I've said that, let's just get into it. I wanted to just start by basically ranting, because I want to get the ranting out of the way and then talk about and make sense of what these claims are. So first of all, Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Autistic people and neurodivergent people have a role to play in society, whether you like it or not. Some of the world's greatest minds are neurodivergent. Some of the world's greatest people are neurodivergent, whether you like that or not. And I know in your ignorant heads you can't picture a world where autistic people can contribute like every other person, but we're human beings as well. We have our own special interests. That doesn't make us different. We communicate different. Whilst this does make us different, we're still human beings at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that you can just treat us or infantilize us or try and find a cure for this. I wouldn't want to cure my autism for the world. I will say this, and in some areas it is a curse, but in some areas it is a superpower. Without my autism, I wouldn't be a journalist. I wouldn't be doing this right now. Without my autism, I wouldn't be at university studying journalism. I wouldn't be doing this without my autism, because my special interests come from my autism and come from my love for sports, and that is because of my autism. I am so interested in it, and there are other people who are like me, who are not just interested in motorsport or in football, but there are people who are interested in other things: music, science, mathematics, politics. There are so many neurodivergent people who have a part to play in our society, and they deserve as much of a part in society as neurotypical people do, if not more, because neurodivergent people have more empathy than neurotypical people do. That is a fact. That is a fact. And unfortunately, instead of trying to fix society's proper problems, such as the economical issues, trying to stop a genocide, trying to stop the rise of fascism, they are instead focusing on minority groups such as the trans community and us, the autistic community. Next, they're going to come after gay people, and I'm not fear-mongering here. This is what's going to happen. They're going to come after gay people, bisexuals, lesbians. They're going to come after anybody who's a minority, because the solution for these rich white men who are not disabled, they are not LGBTQ, they are heterosexual, the only solution for these rich white men is to fill their pockets even further. And I'm not, I said I wasn't going to be political, but this is what is happening. We are being used as a political tool by the rich and wealthy. And, I remember a debate, and, I know, he passed away, and, he got assassinated. But there was a debate Charlie Kirk did with this guy from Cambridge, and he was moving his hands around a lot like I was, and he was moving about a lot, and he was telling him to calm down. I am not going to calm down, okay? This affects my life, this affects the lives of many, many people I know, and it's not just, the autism part, it's the transgender part. It's the fact that next, the Trump administration and other governments are going to go after minorities. They're going to go after people of color. They're going to go after members of the LGBTQ plus community. They're going to go after these people because they are trying to distract the media from the real problems, which is half of the world is globally in an economic crisis. There's ongoing genocides which are being supported by the US government and by many, many Western governments. And there are a lot of problems with this world, which is the fact that there are men who are running society at the very, very top, and some women as well, but mainly men who are rich and wealthy and should not be in power because they are greedy greedy, and corporate. That is the fact. And they are using us as political tools and saying, let's distract the media from all of the problems that we are causing and instead put all of our grief onto a minority and blame them for it, when we have done nothing wrong. Neurodivergent people are important to society. We play a role. We do regular things. You know, some of us are math teachers. Some of us are scientists. Some of us work in shops. Some of us are writers. Some of us are actors. Some of us are journalists. Some of us are authors. Some of us are gym trainers. That there is many different roles. Some are musicians. There are so many different roles that neurodivergent people have to play in society. And without neurodivergent people, society would be a hell of a lot worse. And there would be less good people. Because as I said before, neurotypical people do not have the same level of empathy in many, many cases than neurodivergent people do. Because we know what it's like to be persecuted against. We know what it's like to be prejudiced against. And that is exactly why there are more neurodivergent people who are supportive of the LGBTQ community than heterosexual people are. And well, not heterosexual people, sorry, neurotypical people are. And I just think that there's a massive problem with this, because they are basically saying, we should cure autism. We should cure autism. No, you shouldn't, okay? You are playing God. You're trying to play God and say, oh, let's try and stop that from happening. If everybody in society was neurotypical, the world would be the most boring place ever. Not as many people would have special interests for starters, and there wouldn't be as many different world points of view. And this is the problem at the end of the day. Because these people, they also don't want neurodivergent people around, because simply put, we have a different view of the world, and it's very black and white to us. And in many, many cases, that black and white world shows that the very people who are trying to get rid of us and try and cure this disease are the people who are causing the problems in society. And that is simple as that. And I just think this is totally wrong. It's totally wrong to politicize a mental health condition, a neurodivergent condition. Simple as that. And I am fed up of being treated like I am not a human being, because I am a human being. I have been a human being since the day I was conceived, since the day I was born, and until the day that I die, I will be a human being. I am a human being, and I should not be treated any differently, unless I want to be, by anybody else. I do not want to be infantilized. I do not want to be talked down to. I just want to be understood and supported like every other person does. And that is a fact. That is a fact, and that is what most autistic and neurodivergent people are like. We just want to be supported and helped and loved, like a regular, neurotypical, regular, normal human being, because all we want is societal acceptance, but we will never get that because of people like you, Donald Trump, and because of people like you, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and anybody who is intolerant of us as a people. We are being persecuted against by these ignorant people, and unfortunately, that is the way society has always been. We have always been outcasts. And that is the problem. Society doesn't welcome anybody who isn't fitting their mold. And so as a result, instead of society trying to change with societal rules, we should change society and change the norms, because the norms of society are hideous and ugly. They are very, very sexist, racist, misogynistic, ableist, what's the word for it again? Homophobic, transphobic. Society is like that. And unfortunately, the only way that will change is if there are hierarchical changes to the way societal constraints are. That is, the constructs are, I should say. That is the only way this will change, okay? And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And I've accepted that. I've lived with that. But can we please just stop being ruined even further, because we have had enough of this. We have lived with this all of our lives. We have lived with people saying to us and infantilizing us. We have had people who have been talking down to us all our lives, who have been ableist towards us, who have treated us differently. So please, God, just leave us alone. Leave us alone, and don't start saying this information crap, okay? Stop saying this false news that Tylenol or paracetamol causes autism, because it does not. Genetics do. There are people in my family, many members of my family, who are neurodivergent, okay? And that is not a, luck or random genetics thing. In some families, it is random genetics. Some, there might be one person in the whole family. But in some families, it is a very common thing. And it's not purely a luck thing, okay? That is the way it is. And I know I'm very loud and I know I'm very shouty, but this means a lot to me. This is the most passionate I've ever been about anything in my life, okay? Because this is my livelihood. This is my life. This is society crumbling down on people like me. And I've had enough of it. I have, quite frankly, had enough of being mistreated by society. Because I've always been mistreated by society. I always will be. But it's about how we are treated on the regular by the average person. Because society isn't the average person. The average person is a wonderful person. A person who cares about other people's feelings. About other people's needs and wants. About other people's society. In a perfect society, we all live happily and harmoniously. And we treat each other with this respect and equality that we would want to be receiving. I try my best to treat people the way I would want to be treated, because that is the way the world should be. If we were like that, then there wouldn't be war, there would not be the same level of poverty, and there wouldn't be half of the problems that the world faces now. But instead, we have evil, disgusting, and immoral people like Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., members of the Republican administration in America right now, members of the Labour Party in Britain right now, and members of many different political parties all across the world who are corrupt, who are racist, who are misogynistic, who are sexist, who are homophobic, who are ableist, and who are transphobic. We deserve rights just as much as anybody else does. That is a fact. We are people. And I think I've had enough of this, and I think I'm just going to post two different videos. One where I just actually talk about how awful these... Actually, no, tell you what, I'm just going to go into it now. The first autistic case was in the 1940s, okay? It was in 1943 by Leo Kanner. Now, originally, it was a man called, and I'm going to need to find his name because I've forgotten it, Eugene Breuer, who came up with the idea of autism. Now, originally, it was linked to schizophrenia. Then there was an incredible Jewish Russian woman called Grunya Sukhareva. I think she was Russian. She was Ukrainian, sorry. Yeah, she was Ukrainian. Who started to do studies on it. Leo Kanner thought that the condition would be distinct from schizophrenia. And he was basically the forefather of it. We are not going to, just openly be like, oh, Hans Asperger, what a hero. Calling autism Asperger's is insulting, in my opinion, because whilst, yes, it is a diagnosis, the treatment that Hans Asperger did on disabled children during World War II was nothing short of disgusting, and he contributed to the Actian T2 form of euthanasia program. And as a result, during the Holocaust, disabled children and adults were murdered for just existing. And I am so afraid that we are going to get to that phase again, because what is happening right now is persecution. And it's like a famous quote by a priest, a German priest, which goes like this. It's Martin Niemöller's quote. He said, and I quote, "First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." And this is what's happening. You need to speak out. You need to be an ally to us. We deserve to be respected and treated like a regular person, just like people of colour do, just like LGBTQ plus people do. We deserve equal treatment. And in fact, there are many of us who intermingle in those communities. There are many people who are all three, who are involved in all three communities. There are people who are neurodivergent that are of colour and are LGBTQ. There are many people who are like that. And unfortunately, they're being persecuted for three different things. First of all, for their sexuality. Second of all, for their ethnicity and where they come from. And third of all, because of their neurodivergency. And this is just awful. But to go back to the actual story, Hans Asperger basically did that to children. And eventually, more and more research was done around autism, and more was discovered about it, which is why more children are diagnosed with it than ever before. Not because of some... And I'm going to swear here, I will warn you, I am about to swear, so if you want to skip 10 seconds, you can. Some bullshit around medicines. That is not the case at all. I already said it's because of genetics and because of further societal awareness around autism that first of all, that A, autism exists, but B, that there's more people being diagnosed than ever. So there will be the occasional misdiagnosis, but there is still people out there who are not being diagnosed. I remember when the figure quoted was once 1 in 100, and I was like, that is not true. It's probably 1 in 30, and that is roughly what it is. Because there are a lot more neurodivergent people out there than you think. People mask how they feel, and that is because of society's expectations. It's a cycle, because what happens is men, and especially women, mask their emotions for society's expectations, so they are believed to be a regular person, and as a result, nothing ever gets picked up upon in regards to their neurodivergency. And that is the reality of the situation, unfortunately, for many people. I was diagnosed when I was 7.5 with autism and ADHD because a friend of my mum's noticed I had behaviours which resembled that of what was then known as Asperger's, but when I was diagnosed it was with autism. My brother has autism as well, just like I do, and I love him so much, and I would never want him to be different to the boy that he is. He's 8 years old, he's an innocent child, and he is going to have to grow up in a world where the world doesn't want him. Because this is what society has said to us. Society has said to us, you exist, but we don't think you should exist. That's what society says to us. That's what the norms say to us. They say, you are an imposter. You are an outsider. You are not welcome, but you still come in here. They acknowledge our existence, but they don't want us to exist. It's funny. It's really funny, because if neurodivergent people didn't exist, the world would be a hell of a lot worse. And I think if we did end up getting holocausted, if we did end up getting genocided against, then they would realise that. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that autistic people continue to play a part in society, because we deserve a role in society. We are good people who are well-intentioned. Sometimes we say the wrong thing. Sometimes we do the wrong thing. We make mistakes. We're human beings like the rest of you are. We make mistakes and we live up to them. We acknowledge them and we try to learn from them. And some of us do and some of us don't. Just like neurotypical people do. We're brothers in arms at the end of the day. We're all cut from the same cloth. We're all human beings. We all go back thousands and thousands of years. And at the end of the day, we are all only human. And we should all be treating each other like how we would want to be treated. They spout all this religious stuff and say this and that. But the only religious thing I ever quote is to treat somebody like you would want to be treated. Love everyone like they're your neighbour. Because that is what the world should be like. None of this stuff about stoning on the Sabbath. None of this stuff about how homosexuals can't be in bed together. Nothing about how you can sell your children to slavery. No, a society where we are all welcoming each other. Where when a child is born, the world celebrates. And when a person dies, we celebrate their life and remember them. Through stories, through culture, through society's stories. But unfortunately, many people just get forgotten about. especially people who are minorities. There are many, many people out there who don't know stories around neurodivergent people or people of colour or people who are LGBTQ. One great example for me would be a woman called Lily Elba. Now, many people forget about this woman. She was one of the first trans women ever. And it was not until 2015 that a film was published about her. She died in 1931. And many people simply just did not know who she was. She was born a man, but transitioned to a woman. Simple as that. And unfortunately, many people forget about people such as Lily Elba. And that is unfortunately the way that society is. So I wanted to leave on that message because I'm quite frankly sick and fed up of being treated awfully. And as I said earlier, if anybody wants to message me, my Instagram is @LiamPlutner and my email is liamusp2007@gmail.com. That's going to be just this. This is probably not going to get any views on Instagram or on YouTube, but I just need to rant about it because I'm fed up of it.